received a message from a stranger at 2 a.m. The picture in the message showed a woman holding a bottle and twisting her waist. She looked like someone from a nightclub. There was only one man next to her. I quietly knelt down and spoke to her. "I just received a message with a picture of you at the bar. Don't you want to explain yourself?" "I don't know what message you're talking about," she said. "Maybe my colleague was bored and sent it. What is there to explain? I just went to the bar with a colleague." She didn't seem guilty at all. "You had time to go to the bar, but you didn't have time to take Katie to the playground. You couldn't attend the kindergarten parent meeting. Do you know how disappointed Katie is? Do you deserve to be a mother?" Amanda felt guilty and apologized. "I'm sorry, honey. I forgot." She looked pitiful and pressed herself against me like a kitten trying to please. Her dress was almost soaked through from the rain. Now it was all visible. Even though she is my wife, I could not help but judge her silently. Her words sounded sincere, but I was no longer the same person I used to be. She spoke in a long-forgotten gentle tone. "Honey, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. You know I don't like places like bars." I responded in a cold, calm voice, as though discussing someone else entirely. "What is going on between you and Ryan?" Ryan Carter is a name Amanda often mentions. He graduated from the Royal College of Arts in the UK. He is her new director, her top boss. Before I had come into the picture, I had been thorough in my investigations. I had used every means available to learn everything there was to know. Amanda had never seen me like this before. She looked uncomfortable and hesitated before speaking. I did go with Director Carter, but that was a departmental gathering. Nothing happened between us. I simply stared at her face. I had never seen her hide anything in her expression before. "You know I dislike bars," I said, "and I remember that you never used to go to them. The former director invited you many times and you refused every single time. Did something happen between you and him?" Amanda's face turned red. "Do you think I cheated on you? I'm telling you I didn't." Her voice was loud. She seemed full of confidence. Her expression suggested she was telling the truth. I was briefly taken aback. "All right, I believe you. I prepared milk and bread for you. Eat something before you go to bed." Amanda froze. She hadn't expected to pass the test so easily. She hurried to the kitchen. I had already dissolved sleeping pills into the milk, enough to keep her asleep for an entire day. I needed a full day to get things done. She took the milk out. It seemed as though she wanted to say something, but she checked her phone and swallowed her words. Half an hour later, I walked into the bedroom. The medicine had taken effect. She was sleeping soundly. I nudged her several times, but she didn't respond. I used her fingerprint to unlock her phone. There was a photo of her and Ryan. Her smile in the photo was warm and gentle, a look I hadn't seen directed at me in a long time. It was obvious their relationship was beyond ordinary friendship. I opened the photo album. It was filled with design drafts. The photos of me and our daughter had been deleted. I opened the chat application. An account called Art of Heart had been blocked. "How dare you claim you didn't cheat, Amanda?" Amanda comes from a distinguished family, the Thornton family of distinguished standing. Strict and traditional, such a family would seem to make infidelity impossible. It wasn't about money. It was Ryan who had taken the initiative to approach her. At first it started with questions about art. Then they talked about interests, hobbies, and eventually private emotional matters. She complained to Ryan that her life was boring, that her husband was incompetent and self-righteous. She was filled with dissatisfaction with her life and even with their daughter. Ryan took advantage of this and became the outlet for all her emotions. I found that most of the chat records were still intact. Only the most critical content had been completely deleted. I copied everything from her phone to my computer, turned the air conditioning down to a cold 64 degrees, and took one last cold look at Amanda lying in bed before turning around and leaving. At 7 in the morning, my daughter woke up right on time. I prepared her breakfast from memory. Then, as casually as I could, I asked, "Katie, when Mom is home, does an uncle ever come over to play?" I suspected something based on what Amanda had done, and once before, Katie had mentioned that an uncle always brought her candy. Unfortunately, at the time, I had been too dismissive and hadn't paid it any attention. Katie put down her toothbrush, raised her head, and said, "There was an uncle who came to the house." I sent her Ryan's photo. "Is this the uncle?" "Yes, that's him. He also gave Mommy a pretty dress." I smiled coldly to myself. I took note of everything my daughter said and saved it to both my computer and my phone. At the same time, I had someone check Amanda's recent check-in history and hotel records. After dropping Katie off at school, I went straight to the pharmacy and mixed a special powder with some basic medicine, something I knew how to do well. Then I went to Ryan's company. I smiled at the young man, good-looking in his mid-20s, and said, "Mr. Carter, I'm here to request a leave of absence for my wife." This was Ryan Carter. He hadn't expected me to come. He obviously knew who I was. His eyes flickered with unease. "Of course. No problem. Thank you. Have a good day. I look forward to our continued cooperation." I patted him firmly on the back as though greeting him warmly. In reality, the fine needle embedded in my fingertip had pierced his skin. The needle had been coated with a special compound I had prepared. Not lethal, but enough to make him thoroughly miserable. My intention was not to kill them. I was going to make this pair slowly pay a more painful price than death. To buy myself time, I used Amanda's illness as an excuse and requested 3 days off from my own workplace. When I returned home at noon, Amanda was still unconscious. The air conditioning had left the room bitterly cold. The sleeping pills had not yet worn off. I turned off the air conditioning and gave her medicine, substances that could mimic the symptoms of a severe cold when combined with the low-temperature environment. She would be confined to bed for at least a week. I needed time to gather enough evidence for the divorce. In the eyes of her parents, Amanda was an irreplaceable treasure. Well-educated, beautiful, and graceful, practically a princess. Over the years, she had contributed to the household. She had studied art, but had never come across as pretentious. Her clothes were simple. She wore only light makeup. It was a pity that the woman who had betrayed me had changed so drastically. They say love truly lowers one's intelligence. Time passed. I organized files in the study, uploading photos and videos to cloud storage. Then, at around 6:30 in the evening, a loud cough erupted from Amanda's bedroom. I immediately put on a face mask and, drawing on my memories of her husband's behavior, rushed into the bedroom in a performance of panic. "Darling, what's wrong? Are you sick? I'll get you some medicine. Rest, please." I turned to get the medicine. The moment I stepped out of the bedroom, the look of panic vanished from my face. At noon, I had purchased a hidden monitor from an online marketplace and paid someone to install tracking software on Amanda's phone. Her every move was now visible to me. The first thing Amanda did upon waking was send a message to Ryan. "Ryan, I'm sick. I may need to take tomorrow off. Can you handle the presentation for me?" "Sweetheart, I'm right here. How are you feeling? Your husband already put in the leave request. Don't worry. I'll take care of everything. I love you." "Stop it. Don't say things like that. Delete this quickly." These messages were mirrored to my phone. After auto-saving them, Amanda's prompt to delete was carried out. The evidence was clear enough to prove their affair. Amanda refused to acknowledge what she was doing. Anyone could see that she felt no genuine remorse. She even seemed to enjoy it. I took the cold medicine and a glass of warm water into the bedroom. Amanda heard my footsteps and instinctively hid her phone under her pillow. Classic guilty behavior. Over the past 4 months, this had happened countless times, and the previous version of me had never noticed. "Thank you, honey." I wanted to embrace her to help her take the medicine, but I held myself back. The instincts of the body don't lie. One should never trust a woman who has betrayed her vows. For the sake of so-called love, such a person can abandon a husband and child, even her own daughter, without hesitation. Amanda, now medicated, fell asleep again. The Chinese herbal remedy I had given her would maintain cold-like symptoms. She would be mostly unconscious. I intended to ask her sister, Janet, to come and care for her. Janet had no children. Her husband, Marcus, ran an insurance firm, and Janet had long since become a stay-at-home wife with plenty of time on her hands. Amanda would need to rest for at least a week, and I couldn't keep watch over her indefinitely. Just as I reached for my phone, it rang. It was my mother-in-law, Helen. I composed myself and answered, "Hello, Mom. Is everything all right?" "Nathan," she said, using the name everyone knew me by. "I'm on my way to your place. Has Amanda caught a cold? I'll come take care of her today. You go to work without worry." I steered the conversation carefully. "Mom, my phone got water damage yesterday and had to be reset. The kindergarten teacher just mentioned that the class graduation photo needs a family portrait included. Could you ask Amanda to send one to me?" I knew perfectly well that there was no family portrait on Amanda's phone. There was no photo of me or our daughter anywhere on it. I had 2 purposes in asking. First, to gauge my mother-in-law's reaction to her daughter's infidelity. Second, to see whether Amanda's family still felt any guilt about what she had done to their granddaughter. Helen's voice came through the phone, thoughtful and probing. Can't you two just call each other? Did you have a disagreement? Tell Mom, I'll mediate. I played the patient, long-suffering husband. I think she might just be very busy. Katie has asked to go to the playground many times, and Amanda hasn't been able to make it. I've been managing the home on my own. I don't mind, but honestly, Mom, we haven't been intimate in over 3 months. If this continues, it will strain our relationship eventually. Helen was visibly upset. Is that so? I'll speak with her. I raised her better than this. She won't do anything shameful. I'll handle it. I have to go to the hospital now. I'll call you later. Keep me updated on Amanda's condition. I maintained a humble tone throughout. Helen suspected nothing. Helen arrived at the door carrying a whole stewed chicken. Following my earlier suggestion, the first thing she did was go through Amanda's phone to find a family photo. Coincidentally, Amanda had just finished a call with Ryan and was lying in bed in a feverish daze. She felt her mother enter the room but could barely lift her arm. She couldn't say a word. Why are you running a fever again? I'll video call the doctor later to get a prescription. You have such a good husband. You're luckier than you know. Helen sat beside her and began rummaging gently through her things. You rest. The kindergarten teacher wants a family portrait. Nathan's phone is broken. I'll help you find one. Amanda was barely conscious. Her head pounded terribly. She picked up her phone reflexively, but Helen had already taken it from her hands. Let me find it. Katie is so beautiful. We need to choose a good one. I listened through the surveillance audio and had to press my hand over my mouth in the back of the taxi to keep from laughing aloud. Dear mother-in-law, take a good look at what your precious daughter has been up to. Amanda had spoken with Ryan on a call just moments before. Her phone was not broken at all. The moment Helen unlocked the screen, a photo of Amanda and Ryan filled the display. Helen's face went white. Trembling, she opened the photo album. It was empty. Every family photo, gone. On my phone monitor, I watched Helen enlarge the intimate photo. Her expression crumpled. Get up! She yanked back the blanket. Get up right now! Amanda was jolted from her stupor. When she saw the phone in her mother's hand, something clicked. With energy she shouldn't have had, she lunged and grabbed it. Who gave you permission to go through my phone? Oh, so you have secrets now, do you? Helen's voice shook. How long have you been with this man? How far has this gone? How long? Amanda's illness made her defensive rather than repentant. Let me ask you, how long have you been seeing this man? I hate lying. I hate infidelity. I thought your father and I raised you with values. I never expected you to bring this kind of shame on our family. When Amanda realized what photo her mother had seen, cold sweat broke out across her skin. Mom, please believe me. She began to cry, which only enraged Helen further. Helen slapped her daughter across the face. She is still her mother. She didn't use her full strength. But the slap rang out loud and clear. Have you no conscience? Do you know how much Nathan has sacrificed for this family? When your father was hospitalized with high blood pressure, it was Nathan who ran back and forth for 3 days without rest. Where were you? And now that you've been promoted, you're flirting with another man? If this gets out, what face do your father and I have left? I see everything. You think chasing after this man is appropriate? Do you have no shame? Do you know you're married? Do you know you're this child's mother? What would Katie think of you? Amanda felt deeply wronged. Women are remarkably skilled at deceiving themselves. She believed she had maintained a physical boundary with Ryan and therefore told herself it wasn't cheating. It wasn't betrayal. She had defined their relationship as a meeting of souls. She was beyond saving. Helen rarely raised her voice at home, but when she did, even Amanda's father listened. Amanda had no ground to stand on. Mom, I didn't cheat on him. Who is this person? Why are you asking me this? Why can't I ask? What are you afraid of? Aren't you the rational one? How can you let a man like this consume you, to the point of neglecting your husband and your own child? His name is Ryan Carter. He's my superior, head of the design department. He's about to be promoted to director. Amanda stared at the phone screen with her head bowed. She felt ill. She had changed during this time. She had become obsessed with Ryan's work and his world. Even her own family and mother had noticed. What troubled her most was that she had neglected her daughter. Katie had once been so attached to her. Now, at some point she could not identify, Katie had gradually disappeared from her world. When she thought of her daughter, Amanda's tears fell silently. She lowered her head and said quietly, I won't do anything shameless. Helen, still trembling with anger, made her decision. While Nathan doesn't know about this, you end things with that man. Delete those photos. Then resign from that company. Our family doesn't need you working there. If you want to start your own studio, I'll fund it. Now dry your tears and tell me clearly." Amanda's voice was firm but quiet. "I won't resign. I will continue my working relationship with Ryan Carter. I love art and design. I promise you, I will keep it strictly professional from now on. I know I haven't been attentive enough to my family. That's my fault. I was too absorbed in work. It won't happen again." She was sincere. Helen, despite everything, chose to believe her daughter. But watching from the surveillance feed, I shook my head. Helen said to her, "Listen to me. Don't think about that man anymore. Once you cross that line, there's no going back." "I understand, Mom." Amanda nodded and deleted Ryan's photos in front of her mother. I watched through the monitor and shook my head again. Amanda had not taken any of this to heart. The hesitation in her hands as she deleted the photos was unmistakable. Her mother could remove the photos from the phone, but she could not remove the man from her daughter's heart. That evening, Amanda lay in bed reviewing her recent months. It felt like waking from a long, vivid dream. Her mother's words from that morning rang in her ears. What kind of fool am I? Amanda's lips trembled as she asked herself, do I love Ryan? Am I willing to spend the rest of my life with him? Am I willing to leave my husband and my daughter? She thought honestly. Her feelings for Ryan were not romantic love. They were the admiration of a fan for an idol. They were built on shared passion for art, not genuine intimacy. The realization came quietly but clearly. Amanda began to understand that for the past 3 months, she had been absent from her family in every way that mattered, especially absent from her daughter. Every day she had spent at the office with Ryan, designing through the evening, going to dinner, walking through shopping centers, and not once had she taken Katie to the amusement park as she had promised. The guilt was overwhelming. Tears streamed down her face. I don't deserve to be a mother. Once a person begins to truly reflect, memory after memory surfaces. She thought of Nathan. He didn't share her artistic sensibilities and they had different tastes, but he was steadfastly devoted. No matter how late she came home, there was always a warm meal waiting. When she was too exhausted to move, he would prepare a basin of warm water and quietly wash her feet. Even 2 days ago, after her colleague had sent him that photo at the bar, he had still prepared warm milk for her when she came home. Why was I so foolish? I have such a good home. She resolved quietly but firmly that she must keep her distance from Ryan. She would not let Nathan find out. Her mother was right, but her resolve barely lasted an hour. A message arrived from Ryan. Tomorrow at 11 a.m., Romantico restaurant. I'll see you there. A simple message, and Amanda was entangled again. The phone felt heavy in her hands. She typed, I'm sorry, Director Carter, I have some design revisions to finish tomorrow. I won't be able to make it. If Amanda had truly wanted to end things with Ryan, the first step should have been to block his number entirely and apply for an internal transfer, or resign outright. That would have been genuine repentance, but there was still something holding her back. A few minutes later, another message came. Darling, let's talk about the Eternal Heart Project. The next revision can wait. Amanda stared at the message. Her guilt struggled against her longing. Director Carter, regarding the Eternal Heart Project, we can discuss it at the office. There's no need to meet at a restaurant. Ryan's reply came quickly. You're calling me Director Carter now? Darling, aren't we kindred spirits? That title hurts me. Did your useless husband find out about us? Please don't speak about my husband that way. I have a family. I think I may have given you the wrong impression before. I was wrong. I hope we can keep things strictly professional going forward. Amanda's hands trembled slightly as she typed. She was conflicted, her expression pained. Ryan's next message read, I'm returning to England soon. I want to see you one last time. Darling, I came here for you. If you truly want to end things, shouldn't we at least say a proper goodbye? Give us both a good memory to hold on to. Amanda finally agreed to the meeting. She forgot the promise she had made to her mother. Just one last time, she told herself. After this, I'll go back to my family. I'll make it right. Meanwhile, in a villa across the city, Ryan put down his phone and turned to the man sitting across from him, a driver and bodyguard named Ethan, employed by a powerful figure named Victor Jung. Ethan said coldly, As long as you can get Amanda Thornton to leave the city with you, the boss will reward you generously. Ryan nodded and waved dismissively. This woman will do whatever I say, don't worry. Ethan's expression didn't soften. Stay focused. Gao. Amanda's father is not a man you want to cross. You can use her emotions, but don't actually get involved with her. Do you understand? He grabbed Ryan by the collar for emphasis. Ryan's face went pale. After Ethan left, Ryan's expression darkened. He slammed his fist against the wall. I knew nothing concrete about Victor Zheng or his scheme. But between the home surveillance and the phone monitoring, I had a clear enough picture of their intentions. Amanda, I thought, you truly cannot help yourself. I composed myself and drove home with the groceries I'd bought, fresh fish for dinner. My mother-in-law, Helen, was tidying the living room when I came in. Nathan! She came over warmly. Leave the groceries with me. Mom will cook tonight. You've worked hard. Come in, come in. Her words touched something in me. She was Amanda's mother, yet she spoke to me with a warmth that felt maternal. I finally understood why, even at his lowest, my predecessor had refused to give up on this marriage. A kind and perceptive mother-in-law. A brilliant, lovely daughter. What more could a man ask for? I felt a flicker of doubt about my plan. If a mother as good as Helen were to learn the full truth about her daughter, how devastated she would be. But I kept my composure. Mom, let me do it. Amanda loves carp. You go and look after her. She can't stand the smell of fish. Helen heard the weight behind my words. Her face filled with heartache. She touched my shoulder. Child, I know you've been suffering. That girl is thoughtless. Don't hold it against her. Song Minglin, Helen, was aching with guilt. Such a devoted son-in-law, and what had her daughter done? She turned sharply and marched to the bedroom door. Amanda, are you deaf in there? Your husband is home. You're his wife. You don't think to come out and greet him? Does the world revolve around you? Do you expect your own mother to bow to you? The words were harsh, but they felt like music to me. Amanda emerged expressionlessly. Her mind was still on Ryan. She couldn't hear her mother's well-meaning frustration. She came out only to push back. Mom, can you please stop interfering? Nathan, if you want to cook fish, fine, just do it. She looked at me with cold eyes. Her tone was like a winter wind. I took a slow breath. I was furious, but I thought of the revenge I had planned for the following day, and I let it go. I offered a gentle smile. Darling, please don't be upset. You're still unwell. Take care of yourself. The old Nathan was docile. I am not. After Amanda's harsh words, I could see she felt a flicker of regret. But Ryan still occupied every corner of her mind. Helen stared at her daughter as though seeing a stranger for the first time. Amanda grew uncomfortable. She pushed her hair back from her face. Mom, I'm not feeling well today. Terrible headache. I'm going to rest. Helen said nothing. She only sighed. Half an hour later, Amanda's sister Janet arrived with her daughter in tow. Daddy! A little girl in a white dress flung herself into my arms. I missed you so much. Good girl. Daddy's hands are dirty from cooking. I'll play with you in a little while, all right? Janet looked me over. Nathan, why aren't you at the office today? I was worried about Amanda's health, I said. Sister, thank you for everything you've been doing. I mean that. Don't be ridiculous. We're family. As Janet moved toward the bedroom, she caught her foot on the edge of the shoe cabinet. I reacted quickly. I stepped forward and caught her by the waist with both hands before she fell. Are you all right, Janet? Her eyes filled with tears. It hurts. I didn't wait for her to protest. I carried her to the sofa. Janet was flustered, her face red, and she couldn't find the words. Helen came over with the ointment. Mom, shall I apply it or will you? I'll do it. Helen tended to Janet's ankle. In the kitchen, Amanda had heard the commotion. She stood with her rice bowl and frowned. Something was unfamiliar and uncomfortable, watching Nathan rush to her sister's side. It had never bothered her before, but today, inexplicably, it stung. This dish is too salty, she said flatly. Katie, don't eat too much of it. I set down my chopsticks immediately. I'm sorry, let me make something else right now. Helen looked up sharply. Sit down. She likes it. Let her be. She turned to glare at her daughter. Since you don't want it, go back to your room. Amanda put down her bowl with a clatter. Fine, I won't eat. She walked back to the bedroom. Katie looked up with wide, frightened eyes, unsure whether to cry. I rubbed her head gently. Don't be scared, sweetheart. Mommy's just not feeling well. When she's better, we'll all go to the playground together. Deal? Helen turned away and discreetly wiped her eyes. She was too ashamed to speak. I looked up and said, "Mom, do you and Dad have anything planned for tomorrow? There's something I'd like to speak with both families about. In person." I looked at Janet as well. "Sister, I hate to ask again, but would you mind keeping an eye on Katie tomorrow?" Janet and Helen exchanged a glance. Neither could read my expression. Helen felt something was coming. "Of course. Dad and I will wait for your call." After dinner, I washed up quickly, retrieved some documents from the office, and left the house. Behind me, I knew Helen and Janet were quietly piecing together what tomorrow might mean. I stepped into the apartment in the early hours of the morning. A soft voice met me in the darkness. "Honey, I've missed you." The silhouette in the doorway, the silk dress, the vulnerability in her posture, tested every wall I had built. For one unguarded moment, my resolve nearly crumbled. But in the next instant, clarity returned. I reached out and took her wrist. I was about to push her away. Then, the moment my fingers found her pulse, my whole body went rigid. She was pregnant. Approximately 40 days along. Everything in my mind went white. Then the rage came, cold and absolute. "We haven't been together in 4 months," I said quietly. "You know that." Amanda forced a smile, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. "Honey, you're hurting my wrist. I know it's my fault. I neglected you and Katie. I'm so sorry." I looked at her for a long moment. "Go to bed. We'll talk tomorrow. I don't want to be touched right now." It was not a request. The coldness in my voice made Amanda go still. She had never heard me speak that way. She reached for me with trembling hands. "Nathan, I am your wife. I swear. I have not betrayed you. I have maintained my boundaries. I swear it." "Get out. Don't make me say it again." The slap of those words across her face was almost physical. Her legs gave slightly. She clutched the door frame. "You've changed," she cried. "I've apologized. What more do you want from me? Do you want me to kneel?" "The Nathan you knew is gone," I said. Then I walked her to the door of the study, closed it behind her, and went to the bathroom. I stood under cold water until my hands stopped shaking. A memory surfaced, one I had been deliberately suppressing. A month ago, Amanda had attended a company dinner. I had followed, staying at a distance. Before she got into the car, Ryan had taken her hand and leaned close. It was unmistakably intimate. She had laughed. I had followed her home and intended to wake her and speak plainly. But I heard her murmur a name in her sleep. "Ryan." That night, I had stayed. She had been barely conscious. "I am 80% certain the child is not mine, conceived during that company dinner or close to it, but I could not know for certain. Regardless, I could not keep the child. Every birthday would be a reminder. For the child's sake and for mine, it could not be. Everything would have answers tomorrow." Half an hour later, I stepped out of the bathroom. The bedroom door was ajar. Amanda was curled on the bed, eyes red. When she saw me, she got up quickly and moved to intercept me in the hallway. But when she saw me clearly, something in her gaze shifted. She had studied art for years. She understood the human form. The Nathan she had married had been slightly soft around the middle, uninterested in exercise. The person standing before her now was someone different entirely. She stared, caught off guard, a faint blush rising in her cheeks. "Didn't you have something to say?" I asked. Amanda stepped toward me and reached out, then stopped herself, her hand hovering in the air. My instinctive step back hurt her. She knew she had no right to be hurt. Ever since that night at the bar, she had sensed that something fundamental had changed in me. The home that had always felt like a refuge now felt strained and unfamiliar. "Honey, I'm sorry," she said softly. It was her third apology of the night. She hadn't yet understood the real depth of what she had done. She was hoping that closeness could compensate for betrayal. "Don't apologize," I said. "We'll talk properly in a few days. You've just been sick. Get some rest." I kept my voice even, but Amanda didn't move. She looked up at me, her lips trembling, her eyes glistening. "Honey, I really do love you. Please believe me." The words made my stomach turn. If I hadn't read every message between her and Ryan, I might have allowed myself to believe her. But I had. "I believe you," I said flatly, and before she could respond, I added, "By the way, about the family portrait. The teacher mentioned it again this morning. There was one we took at the museum with Katie. Send it to me when you get a chance. Something shifted in Amanda's face. The color drained from it. My phone reset. I lost some things. I'm sorry. I'll go to the phone shop tomorrow and see what I can recover. She was nervous. The lie came out uneven. I said nothing to expose it. It's fine. I'll look for a backup on the computer. Get some rest. Amanda lay back in bed, guilt pooling in her chest. She stared at the ceiling and made herself a promise. Tomorrow was the last time she would see Ryan. After that, she would come home. She would be present. She would be a mother again. She would be a wife. She fell asleep repeating this to herself. In a separate apartment across the city, another drama was quietly unfolding. Janet, composed, dutiful Janet, sat alone in the living room late at night, waiting. The door opened just after 1 in the morning. Her husband Marcus came in, smelling of alcohol. She rose to help him. Have you eaten? I'll make you some tea. I'm fine. Go to sleep. He set down his bag, glanced at her briefly with that same expression he always wore, that private satisfaction he seemed to take from her presence, the one she had long since stopped feeling warmed by, and went to the bathroom. Janet sat back down. She sighed. At 1 o'clock in the morning, she woke to find the living room light still on. She crept out quietly and stopped at the hallway. Marcus was on the phone, his voice low but distinct. She stood very still. Zheng, we're partners, not employer and employee. You want the Thornton girl, that's your business. What I want is Charles Thornton's money. I've embezzled too much from the company accounts to hide it much longer. Your plan has to succeed. That husband of hers is a pushover. His wife cheats on him openly and he doesn't even fight back. Once Charles hands over the funds to protect the family name, whatever you do with them after that is no concern of mine. Janet pressed her hand over her mouth. Her legs threatened to give out beneath her. Marcus, gentle, mild Marcus, had been scheming against her sister's family, against her own flesh and blood. She backed into the bedroom and lay down in the dark, her eyes wide open, her breath controlled and shallow. Marcus returned to the room shortly after. Janet feigned sleep, not moving, barely breathing. She lay awake until dawn, sick with fear and shame. The moment Marcus left for work in the morning, she got up. Ignoring the pain in her injured ankle, she took her daughter by the hand and went to Nathan's apartment. She arrived just as Amanda was leaving, dressed elegantly, her face alive with anticipation, headed for her 11 o'clock meeting with Ryan. I was nearly out the door myself when Janet arrived. The moment she saw me, she collapsed forward, sobbing into my shoulder. What is it? Slowly. Take a breath. It's Marcus, she choked out. He's going to hurt you. He's working against your family. I sat her down on the sofa and got the ointment for her swollen ankle. Once she had calmed, Janet told me everything. Every word she had overheard between Marcus and Victor Zheng. I listened carefully. The full picture assembled itself. Marcus had been embezzling from his company and needed a cover. He planned to use Charles Thornton's paternal instinct, his unwillingness to let his daughter's infidelity become a public scandal, as leverage to extract funds. Ryan had been recruited to seduce Amanda as part of the scheme, and Victor Zheng had been pulling the strings from behind. It was more complicated than I had realized, but none of it changed my core objective. I needed to resolve things between me and Amanda. Anyone who tried to interfere with that would find I was not the soft-spoken, passive man they thought I was. I made a call. I arranged for both families to meet, Amanda's parents and my own. Then I drove to Romantico restaurant and reserved a private room. Amanda worked nearby. It was, in her mind, a convenient meeting place for her and Ryan. Just before leaving, I called her. Darling, where are you? I'm at the office. What is it? My parents are here. Amanda's parents are here too. We thought we'd all have lunch together like a family meal. Can you join us? A pause. I can't. I'm in the middle of revising a design. I really can't leave right now. Everyone in that private room heard her say it. They filed in silently. The restaurant was quiet and refined. Inside, Amanda sat across from Ryan, radiant in a fitted dress, her smile soft and open, more alive than I had seen her in months. Ryan looked at her with barely concealed hunger. He placed a rose on the table. You look beautiful today. This is for you. Amanda caught herself. We should keep things to a professional level from now on. That would be better. Better? Ryan tilted his head. We're nearly at the finish line. Why pull back now? You used to say we were kindred spirits, that what we had transcended ordinary judgment, that it was about the art. The words worked their way past Amanda's defenses, just as they always had. Darling, Ryan continued, lowering his voice, come with me to England. That's where your real world is. I love you more than anything. I want to introduce you to my family. I want to marry you. He reached across the table and took her hand. The private dining room door opened. 6 pairs of eyes turned toward the scene in the main hall. My father-in-law, Charles Thornton, gripped the back of a chair. Helen pressed her hand over her mouth. Amanda's younger sister, Sophie, turned away, a cold and humorless smile on her face. I walked out of the room and straight toward Ryan. How dare you, I said. Then I hit him. Ryan stumbled. Amanda, without thinking, grabbed my arm. Stop, don't. And I stumbled backward. The back of my head struck the edge of the table. Blood welled immediately and began to run down my neck. To every witness in the room, it looked as though Amanda had shoved her husband to the ground to protect her lover. My mother rushed forward. Nathan, son! Amanda stood frozen, looking at the blood, at my mother's face, at Ryan scrambling to his feet and backing away. She couldn't speak. Charles Thornton roared like a man 20 years younger. He lunged at Ryan and struck him in the chest. Ryan stumbled back and, rather than absorbing the blow with dignity, shoved the older man in return. Back off, old man. She came to me willingly. My mother cried out, If anything happens to my son, I will never forgive you, any of you. Ryan took one look at me, covered in blood, being held upright by staff, and turned on Amanda. This is nothing to do with me. He started it. She came after me. Then he fled. Amanda stood utterly still. The warmth she had associated with Ryan, the illusion of it, collapsed entirely. Charles turned to his daughter. His voice was shaking. I don't have a daughter anymore. Get out of my sight. Amanda dropped to her knees beside me on the floor, unmindful of the blood. She took my hand and kept crying, kept apologizing, but who could believe her now? The restaurant staff called an ambulance. As the paramedics moved both me and Charles Thornton out on stretchers, Amanda followed at the back. She couldn't bring herself to let go of the edge of my jacket. My mother walked beside me. Amanda approached her, her face raw with crying. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. My mother's resolve softened fractionally. There was a granddaughter who needed her mother. She didn't want to drive Amanda over the edge. She was about to speak when a woman in a cheongsam appeared at the entrance, accompanied by an older woman in red lipstick. I recognized them both immediately. The woman in the cheongsam was Ryan's sister, Sophia. The older woman was their mother. Ryan had apparently told them he was introducing his future wife here today. Sophia looked around, surveyed the scene, and decided, deliberately, to play her part. Oh, there you are, sister, she called brightly to Amanda. She turned to the older woman. Mom, this is Ryan's girlfriend, Amanda Thornton, your future daughter-in-law. The effect was immediate. Helen, Charles, my mother. Everyone turned. Amanda's face drained of color. You're mistaken. I am not... Oh, I see, Sophia said, slapping her forehead in theatrical embarrassment. Ryan did mention you were about to finalize a divorce. I almost forgot. I'm so sorry, Mom. Let's go. The older woman looked Amanda up and down with approving eyes and patted her cheek warmly before being steered away. My daughter-in-law is going to be lovely, she declared cheerfully to no one in particular. The two of them swept out. Amanda was left standing in the wreckage, completely alone. I lay on the stretcher, gripping the sides to keep from laughing out loud. Sophia and her mother were nominally Ryan's allies, but Ryan had outlived his usefulness to them, and they had just demolished the last bridge standing between him and any sympathy. Amanda grabbed the sleeve of my mother's coat. Mom, please. It wasn't like that. I don't know those women. I have never had a boyfriend. I haven't done anything wrong to Nathan. I haven't. She sank to her knees on the pavement and swore it aloud for all to hear. My mother faltered. A woman caught in genuine betrayal would not dare to be this direct, this defiant. But a married woman who had held another man's hand, who had met him in secret, had already crossed a line, whatever she had or hadn't done, and Ryan had told his own family he was bringing his girlfriend today. My mother's expression hardened again. Charles Thornton let out a sound I had never heard from a man of his composed bearing. He had served in the military for decades. His reputation had been built on honor, and his daughter had just undone it in a restaurant full of strangers. "Let her go," he said, his voice breaking. "The Thornton family has no daughter like this." Helen turned to Amanda. Her hand rose and fell, the second slap Amanda had received from her own mother that week. "I don't have a daughter like you. I truly regret the day I brought you into this world." She walked away. Amanda didn't move. She looked dead on her feet. From the stretcher, I could see that she had finally, truly understood. I had not wanted to push her to this point, not to this particular edge. I closed my eyes. Wanking. Silently, I called her by the name she had been born with. "I only wanted you to understand, not to break." I let myself go still, and let them think I had lost consciousness. "How can I live without you?" Those humble words disgusted me, yet they moved my mother and made both Helen and Charles look away in shame. Amanda seemed to hear the sound of her own world collapsing. She cried with everything she had left and clung to my hand. "Husband, I'm here. It's all my fault. I deserve everything that's happened." Her husband lay in a coma, and comparing what she had done against what he had always been to her, Amanda felt the full weight of her own wrongdoing. My mother couldn't bring herself to stop her. But Amanda's humiliation was not yet finished. The restaurant manager hurried over, holding a small bag. "Miss, this was left behind by Mr. Ryan Carter." I kept my eyes closed. In the reflection of the ambulance window, I watched without moving. The bag slipped from the manager's hand and fell. Its contents scattered across the floor, adult items unmistakably. A real and total public humiliation. Amanda's face went white. Her hands trembled. "That's not mine. That has nothing to do with me." After everything that had happened that afternoon, not a single soul believed her. My mother turned away, unable to look. Helen went completely cold. Amanda's hands and feet were ice. She nearly fainted. At that moment, the paramedic called out sharply, "Patient's heart rate is spiking. Prepare for resuscitation." I had triggered this myself. A controlled response. Meanwhile, Charles Thornton, Amanda's father, was genuinely in critical condition on his own stretcher. The medical staff could see the severity. They needed to move. From somewhere, Amanda found a burst of strength. She stepped forward and blocked the ambulance door. "You get out," my mother said, her voice cracking. "You don't deserve to stay beside my son." "Mom, I'm not leaving. He needs me. I want to stay with my husband." "You pretended to be devoted to him all this time. Now you want a divorce? I won't allow it. I love Nathan." Amanda's tears fell onto my face. She gripped my hand, the same hand that had been held by Ryan. She felt sick at herself. She had chosen empty promises and the fleeting thrill of Ryan's world. Now she understood. It was too late. The ambulance arrived at the hospital. Charles was taken directly to a private ward. Sophie had already collected Katie and taken her home. The little girl was perceptive enough to ask no questions. Once Charles was stable, Helen sat beside his bed. He opened his eyes and asked quietly, "How is Nathan?" "He will be all right. He lost a great deal of blood. Combined with the impact, his blood pressure is unstable, but there is no immediate danger to his life." Helen sighed. "And his parents? They have been settled in. But in a situation like this, who could possibly think about eating?" Charles tightened his fist. Helen collected herself. "I went to Nathan's ward earlier. I was asked to leave. I'm told Amanda has been kneeling outside the door since they arrived. No one could get her to stand." "She deserves it," Charles said flatly. Helen said quietly, "Charles, do you think Nathan will ever forgive Amanda? Is there any chance they don't divorce?" "Forgive what?" Charles said. "Even a man of iron could not bear what she put him through. Nathan was too soft before. If it had been me, I would have dealt with both of them long ago." Helen flinched and glanced toward the door. "Keep your voice down. If Nathan heard that, what would it look like?" Charles fell silent for a long moment. "I am angry," he finally said, "and I am ashamed. The family will find out eventually. My reputation, built over a lifetime, is in pieces. I have already had people suppress the footage circulating online. The restaurant can be kept quiet for now, but the internet does not forget." Helen spoke carefully. "What I am thinking is this. If Nathan can find it in himself to forgive Amanda, our family will do everything in our power to make it up to him. We can relocate them, start fresh somewhere new. Use our connections to give Nathan a proper career and real support. He would never need to worry again. Even if he eventually sought comfort elsewhere, as long as they do not divorce, we could look the other way. Charles sat and thought for a while. Helen had long wanted to elevate Nathan, to give him a position worthy of his loyalty. But Amanda had always resisted. She feared that once Nathan had his own standing, he would no longer be so easily relied upon, no longer content to stay home and hold everything together while she pursued her ambitions. Even in her most reckless moments, Amanda had been clear-headed about one thing: Nathan was her most stable foundation. With him in place, she could chase art, recognition, and everything she desired. Without him, the whole structure would collapse. "Do what you think is best," Charles said at last, his voice hollow with exhaustion. "I am too ashamed to show my face anywhere right now. I will call in what favors I have left and try to limit the damage." He lay back, defeated. Helen placed the thermos on the bedside table, turned off the overhead light, and slipped quietly out of the ward. Meanwhile, I had already arranged for a series of video clips to be released. Footage of Ryan with multiple women, intimate and undeniable. The clips spread rapidly across every major platform. Ryan's face was clearly visible throughout. Amanda appeared at the end. Only a close embrace, a lingering shot of her expression. But it was enough to seal her fate permanently. Even if she tried to defend herself now, no one would listen. I released this footage personally. Every frame was authentic, unedited. When Amanda chose to behave the way she had, she should have considered that a day like this would come. As for whether anyone might suspect me, that was impossible. I was lying in a hospital bed, critically injured, apparently unconscious. My technical skills far exceeded anything available in this era. No trace of me could be found on any server. My next target was Marcus's insurance company network. What Janet had overheard made it clear there was a much larger conspiracy at work. Marcus was only one piece of it. The true architect had not yet shown himself. The city's monitoring departments were still occupied with the restaurant footage that had gone viral that afternoon. They had not noticed the more quietly spreading private videos. It would not take long before the full story reached every corner of the region. In the VIP ward, Amanda had been kneeling beside my bed for hours. The cold floor had turned her knees red and swollen. But the pain in her body meant nothing beside what she felt inside. She was punishing herself. "Please," she whispered, "let my husband wake up." She stepped away briefly to use the bathroom. When she returned, her skin began to itch, her legs rubbing together unconsciously. She did not realize that a compound had been transferred through contact to her fingernails and was now slowly spreading. My mother, Margaret, walked in carrying a meal. She looked at Amanda kneeling on the floor and frowned. She truly could not comprehend it. After everything, the affair, the public humiliation, the ambulance, the scattered items on the restaurant floor, how could this woman kneel there with such apparent devotion? Divorce was already inevitable. Everyone present understood this except Amanda. Margaret set down the food and said simply, "Get up, I have something to ask you." Amanda bit her lip and rose. Her legs were numb, but she did not dare sit. She bowed her head softly. "Mom," that single word cut through Margaret's composure. She steadied herself with effort. "Tell me the truth," she said. "How far did things go between you and Ryan Carter?" "Mom, please believe me, I made terrible mistakes. I gave people reason to misunderstand, but I never betrayed Nathan in that final way. My body is clean." Margaret was uncertain. Amanda's grief sounded genuine. She had not taken that last step, at least not as she believed. But now, regardless of the truth, no one would believe her. "Mom, I was wrong. I will change. I will resign from the company. I will take care of Katie. I will be here for you and for Nathan. Please give me one more chance. If anything happens to him, I will give my life in exchange." The only thread she had left to hold was the hope that someone's heart could still soften. But when Margaret thought of what had fallen to the ground outside that restaurant, she could not find words. Too much had happened. She was exhausted. "I cannot tell tonight whether what you feel is genuine or whether there is something more you are hiding from us. I cannot untangle it. Go outside. Nathan's room is not a place for someone who caused him this much harm." Amanda's face broke apart. She had no strength left to argue. She could only cry silently, holding on to the memory of Nathan murmuring her name while unconscious, hoping it meant something, hoping it was the last thread that could still hold their life together. She did not know that the Nathan who had loved her most was already gone. The only reason I remained in this hospital in this condition was because the scheme involving Marcus and Victor Zheng was not yet finished. I needed to be present. Helen walked in at that moment and caught the tail end of what Margaret had said. Her face shifted, red, then white. She composed herself and stepped forward. "I heard Nathan is awake. I came to see him." Her manner was humble, carefully restrained. Amanda had never seen her mother like this. She understood at once. Helen was here to apologize on her behalf, to attempt to repair the irreparable. Helen bowed her head slightly toward Margaret. "I am truly sorry for what was done to you and to Nathan. Our family owes you a debt that cannot easily be repaid." Margaret was deeply wounded, but looking at Helen, another mother carrying the same kind of pain, she could only sigh. Children make their own mistakes, but what has happened is genuinely heartbreaking. The doctor has said Nathan needs rest. Whatever must be discussed, we should save for later. The meaning was unmistakable. Amanda was not welcome in this ward. Helen's grief was open and visible. She did not know how to undo what her daughter had done. But for the sake of the family, and for what remained of this broken home, she had to make the attempt. "Whatever happens between them going forward," Helen said, "I want you to know, I recognize Nathan as my son, truly. I will never take Amanda's side over his. Not in this matter. Not in anything." She turned to Amanda. "Why are you still standing there? Go outside. Go and kneel." Amanda had no pride remaining. She lowered herself to the floor in the hallway, knees against the cold tile, head bowed. Tears fell without sound. Her heart held nothing but regret. Helen looked at me, then at Margaret, and spoke with complete sincerity. "I know what Amanda did was a betrayal. I will not excuse it. But I give you my word, she did not cross the final line. She wronged Nathan deeply. I understand that. But please, believe me one more time." Margaret was conflicted. Helen's integrity had never been questioned among people who knew her. The older generation placed great weight on that particular boundary. But what Amanda had done was already unforgivable in every other sense. Margaret looked at me. The final decision was mine alone. Helen continued. "Nathan's mother. I know the silent weight he has carried all these years. While Amanda chased her ambitions, Nathan held everything together without complaint. That is a debt our family owes him. I have spoken with Charles. We are prepared to offer Nathan everything within our means. If he wishes to start a business, we will provide the capital. If he needs connections opened, we will open every door available to us. In this city, there is nothing our family cannot arrange. As long as he forgives Amanda and does not file for divorce, we will honor every request he makes." The room was still. My face remained as calm as death. I did not look at Helen once. Her words settled into silence and went cold. The hope in Amanda's eyes, visible through the doorway, dimmed slowly and went out. She knew. In that moment, she finally understood with complete clarity. I could not forgive her. Perhaps not now. Perhaps not ever. The ward was filled with a silence so heavy no one could breathe. After a long pause, I opened my mouth. My voice was quiet, steady, final. "I will call you Mom one last time, because of who you are, not because of what has happened between us. What has been done cannot be undone." A pause. I knew something was wrong from the beginning. I wanted to bring both families together to address this properly. Instead, she was with him. "He is not my lover," Amanda said from the doorway, barely above a whisper. "I do not love him. Please believe me." My eyes moved to her. The expression in them made her go pale. She did not speak again. Helen noticed the change in me in that same moment. The quiet, patient son-in-law she had always known was gone entirely. In his place was someone different, composed, precise, carrying a quiet authority she had never seen from him before. She understood then, with a sinking certainty, that her daughter had pushed an honest and devoted man beyond any point of return. I spoke evenly. "This is not simple. Before any decisions are made, I need everyone present. What happened at the restaurant today was not an isolated incident. It was part of something deliberately constructed, a scheme, directed against the Thornton family and against mine. Silence. Charles straightened despite his pallor. What are you saying? Is someone behind all of this? I looked at Janet. Sister, tell them what you heard about Marcus and Victor Jung. Janet's voice trembled, but she did not waver. She told them everything she had overheard the previous night. The late phone call, the names, the plan to frame Nathan and use the Thornton family's love for their daughter as leverage to drain the family's wealth. Silence fell across the room like a door closing. Charles was stunned. His own son-in-law, a man who had sat at his table, who had walked freely through his home, had been a hidden threat all along. Helen's face drained completely. Every strange coincidence of the past several months suddenly connected. The picture assembled itself with terrible clarity. Amanda sat on the floor and stared ahead. She had believed she was pursuing art. She had believed she and Ryan shared something rare and true, a meeting of minds, a connection beyond the ordinary. She had told herself it was spiritual, meaningful, beyond reproach. It had been a script. Every word Ryan had ever said to her, every compliment, every tender moment, every whispered promise had been written for someone else's benefit. She had been a pawn from the beginning. She had betrayed her family, neglected her daughter, and dismantled her marriage, for a performance put on by people who saw her only as a tool. Amanda opened her mouth. Nothing came. The regret was absolute. She finally heard her mother's warnings as they had truly been meant. She finally understood Nathan's withdrawal, her family's devastation, the look in Katie's eyes on the evenings she came home too late again. All of it, every consequences had started with her own vanity and her own weakness. I looked at Amanda. I felt no sympathy. She had chosen her own path. She would bear its weight. Ryan Carter was only one part of the plan, I said. The real players were Marcus and Victor Jung. They exploited Amanda's pride and her obsession with art to construct the trap. They placed Ryan in position. They engineered the exposure to do maximum damage, to weaken the Thornton name and leave Charles Thornton vulnerable to financial manipulation. I had recognized the trap from the very beginning. I had built the evidence quietly, protected Katie, and preserved the family's position, even as I prepared for what came next. Charles's hand closed into a fist. He looked at his daughter on the floor, the child he had given everything to, the one he had always been most proud of, and felt something in him fracture, anger, devastation, a grief too vast for any words he knew. Helen wept in silence. She looked at Amanda, then at me, and she let go of whatever she had still been holding on to. She understood now. There was no road back. The family, as it had been, was finished. I closed my eyes for a moment, then I spoke for the final time on this matter. The Nathan who belonged to this family died the day you chose to betray him. That man is gone. From this point on, I will care for my parents, and I will raise my daughter. I looked at her directly, without anger and without warmth. We are divorcing. Every consequence that followed, every piece of damage done, began with your decision. The ending was written by you. Amanda collapsed forward and wept. Not the crying of someone still hoping to be saved. The crying of someone who had finally, fully understood that nothing could be recovered. She wept for the husband she had not appreciated. She wept for the home she had taken apart with her own choices. She wept for the little girl who would grow up in a broken family because of what her mother had done. She wept, and nothing changed. Outside the hospital window, the night was deep and still. The storm that had broken over the Thornton family was only beginning to pass. In its wake, everything was different.